Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you still here, refreshed on the afternoon of day 2. And thank you to the organizers for inviting the Global Battery Alliance to share some of our work in this interesting event. Before we dive further, let's do a little post-coffee stretching exercise. How many of you have heard of the Global Battery Alliance before? Can I have a show of hands? Great. Okay, quite a few. Well, nevertheless, to those of you who might be less familiar with the GBA, let's start with a bit of history. The Global Battery Alliance was founded in 2017 by 9 founding members on the twin realization that in order to meet the Paris climate targets and to electrify the energy and transport system, we were going to need to scale up battery production at a massive scale. 2 to 5 times more minerals needed to fuel this transition, more than 100 new gigafactories, a 17-fold growth of the industry. These are just some of the figures that we keep citing, and we've been citing them throughout this conference as well. At the same time, there were going to be salient risks and negative impacts on the environment, on social issues, and on governance from this rapid scale-up of battery production. Some of these risks are also quite familiar. In the media, we've heard of the risk of child labor in the cobalt value chain, etc. But actually, many of them are systemic in nature and cannot be done away with just by de-risking, meaning changing to another country or another mineral. For example, over half of the critical minerals needed for the energy transition are located in or near indigenous peoples' lands, and inevitably extraction of those minerals will have an impact on the livelihoods of those people. Some of these same geographical locations are also some of the world's most biodiverse and sensitive environments, the rainforests from the Amazon to the Congo Basin to Indonesia. And these are the world's lungs. So in order to scale up battery production, we don't want to actually cut our natural carbon absorption mechanisms either. And battery production and electric vehicle production itself is going to have a carbon footprint. So we're really faced with the challenge of not only making the energy transition happen, but making it happen in a sustainable way. And today, from the 9 founding members, our membership has grown to 150 organizations that are committed to this shared mission, and they represent companies all along the battery value chain, as well as public sector organizations and non-governmental organizations, and many of you are, of course, here in the room today. So, the GBA members have together elaborated a vision for just, circular, and low-carbon battery value chains. But these value chains are typically opaque and complex, spanning the globe by nature. So a first step towards achieving this vision was going to be transparency. We need more data, more information in order to measure the impacts and the risks of this scale-up of battery value chains and eventually manage those risks. And this is where the Battery Passport comes in. It is a tool for consistently reporting on the sustainability performance of the different steps along the battery value chain. And this is really the GBA's unique value proposition and theory of change. In addition to the Battery Passport, the GBA also convenes dialogue across our members and external stakeholders on important issues like critical minerals and circularity. So, let's have a closer look at the Battery Passport. The Battery Passport is a digital twin of the physical battery. What does this mean in practice? The battery passport is comprised of 3 types of data. Material provenance data, so which minerals and other materials go into your battery and where are they coming from? Cobalt, lithium, nickel, etc. Technical, labeling, and usage data, so which model is your battery, where was it manufactured, has it been already repurposed or recycled, for example? And importantly, consistent reporting against sustainability performance indicators, which are defined by the GBA members. And based on this sustainability reporting, the GBA Battery Passport will then issue an ESG score or a quality seal for each battery at the product level. And ultimately, we hope to be able to do that also at the company level. So this is the concept. And in order to prove that this is not just a theoretical exercise, but it can be implemented in practice, in January this year at the World Economic Forum meeting, we launched the world's first proof of concept for a battery passport. This proof of concept was delivered through 3 pilots consisting of the cradle-to-gate battery value chains of 2 OEMs, Audi and Tesla. These value chains worked together with different technological solution providers to aggregate the data and put it into the battery passport prototype, showing that the GBA's battery passport is agnostic to different technologies. We work with different solution providers to actually implement the aggregation and the reporting. Furthermore, these pilot passports showed for the first time that it is possible to combine material provenance data with an ESG score or a calculated index. We did this using a partial ESG score on 3 pilot issues of child labor, human rights, and greenhouse gas emissions to illustrate that this is possible. And this pilot already created some valuable insights to the participants of these pilot projects. You can familiarize yourselves with these pilot reports and the scorecards on our website, and it's actually quite an interesting view to what the battery passport can deliver once it's fully implemented. I want to spend a moment talking about our ESG rulebooks, because these are really the core of what the GBA delivers. They define a common language for what sustainability means in the context of the full battery value chain. And based on this common language, agreed upon by the different stakeholders, this allows defining specific performance metrics for each ESG issue or risk, and then define specific indicators to report upon and calculate and index with. So as I mentioned, we have already developed 3 pilot rulebooks on child labor, human rights, and greenhouse gas emissions, and are right now launching the second wave of indicator development for another set of 4 issues on forced labor, indigenous people's rights, biodiversity, and eco-design, so some of the salient risks that I referred to in the beginning. The rulebooks establish a compliance regulatory baseline, so they allow the companies along the value chain to be compliant with relevant regulation in the EU battery regulation and others, of course, but reflecting the GBA's global nature, we don't stop at the EU, but we've also included key regulations from other jurisdictions, such as the United States and China, and several producing nations as well. Furthermore, we don't stop at compliance. We go